Imagine giving birth today. Bright hospital lights, doctors, medicine, machines tracking every heartbeat. And even with all of that, childbirth is still considered one of the most painful experiences a human can survive. Now imagine doing it 20,000 years ago. No hospital, no painkillers, no surgery, and absolutely no backup plan if something went wrong. Because back then, one difficult birth could mean two graves instead of one. And the worst part is, ancient humans knew that. For most of human history, childbirth was not seen as some magical, peaceful moment. It was dangerous, terrifying, and sometimes deadly enough that entire tribes feared it. You see, humans have a very strange problem compared to other animals. Our babies are massive, not in overall size, but in the size of their heads. Because as humans evolved larger brains, babies developed larger skulls, which sounds great for intelligence, but absolutely terrible for the person trying to push that thing out. At the same time, humans also evolved to walk upright, which narrowed the shape of the hips. So evolution basically created the worst possible combination. Bigger heads, narrower birth canals, and ancient women had to somehow survive that nightmare without modern medicine, which is honestly a brutal deal from nature. Now most animals give birth relatively quickly. A deer can give birth and be walking around later that same day like nothing happened. Meanwhile, human childbirth can last for hours, sometimes days, and ancient humans had no idea what was happening inside the body during labor. All they knew was this: the screaming had started, and sometimes it never stopped. When labor began, ancient women were usually separated from normal daily activities. Some tribes moved them into small shelters or caves away from the group. Not because childbirth was peaceful, but because everyone knew things could get ugly very fast. Picture the scene: a freezing night, smoke from a fire filling the air, the sound of rain outside the cave, a woman crouched in pain while older women from the tribe surrounded her. No gloves, no sterilized tools, no emergency room waiting nearby, just experience passed down through generations. And hope, lots of hope. Now, surprisingly, ancient humans were actually smarter about childbirth than most people think. Many women gave birth in squatting positions instead of lying down, which honestly makes way more sense. Gravity could actually help the baby move downward instead of fighting against it. Some tribes used heated water, herbs, animal skins, wooden support poles to grip during contractions. But even with all that, ancient childbirth was unbelievably dangerous, because one small complication could become a death sentence. And this is where things became horrifying. Sometimes the baby would become stuck. Today, doctors can perform a C-section. Back then, there was no surgery, no safe way to remove the baby, no machines to monitor distress. The women helping would only watch as the mother became weaker and weaker, hour after hour. Imagine hearing someone scream in agony for an entire day straight. Now imagine knowing there's absolutely nothing you can do to stop it. And ancient humans faced another terrifying problem: bleeding, a lot of it. Even today, severe bleeding after childbirth is one of the leading dangers for mothers. But 20,000 years ago? A woman could survive the birth itself, only to slowly bleed to death afterward while her tribe helplessly watched, and they probably didn't fully understand why it was happening, which made it even scarier. To ancient people, childbirth must have felt almost supernatural. One moment, everything was normal. Then, suddenly someone is screaming, crying, shaking in pain, surrounded by blood, while an entirely new human appears from inside their body. Honestly, if you had no scientific understanding, that would look absolutely insane. But infections may have been the worst part of all, because ancient humans lived in a world filled with dirt, smoke, parasites, bacteria, and unclean water. A tiny tear during childbirth could become infected within days. And once infections spread through the body, there was usually no coming back. No antibiotics, no hospitals, no medicine strong enough to stop it. Just fever, weakness, pain, and eventually silence. Now you might think this meant ancient humans rarely survived childbirth, but surprisingly, many did. And that's because human communities adapted around the danger. Women helped each other. Older mothers passed down knowledge. Tribes protected pregnant women near the end of labor. Some researchers even believe human survival depended heavily on cooperation during childbirth, because unlike many animals, humans are terrible at giving birth alone, which is honestly not a very impressive evolutionary achievement. Imagine being a young woman in an ancient tribe watching others die during childbirth throughout your life. You would grow up hearing the screams, hearing the panic, watching people disappear forever after labor began. Then one day, it would be your turn. That fear alone must have been overwhelming. especially since ancient humans had no idea beforehand whether a birth would go smoothly or become a nightmare. And childbirth was not only dangerous for mothers. Babies died constantly too. Some were born too early. Some couldn't breathe. Some became trapped during labor. Others simply didn't survive the freezing temperatures or disease afterward. Ancient parents probably experienced grief far more often than most people realize, because in prehistoric life, survival itself was fragile. But despite all of this, humans kept going, generation after generation, through pain, through fear, through death, which honestly says a lot about how unbelievably resilient ancient women were. Because without them surviving this process over and over again for thousands of years, none of us would be here right now. Every city, every country, every civilization, all of it exists because ancient humans somehow endured one of the most painful and dangerous experiences imaginable, with almost nothing to help them. And maybe that's the strangest part of all. For most of human history, childbirth was never expected to be safe. People simply hoped they survived it.